stories, did you?
I did not see your text exchanges.
Yes, my friend Mike Montante had noticed that I have hand signals to try to shush you at times. I used to just put my head in my hand. Then
My favorite is the leaning on the mic that you do when you're not interested
Does
in
that feel disrespectful to you? So let the record show I am a hero here tonight because I am dealing with the flu. Not a terrible bad one, mostly just aches and fatigue. But I am fighting through it. I've had coffee. I feel like $1,000,000. Unlike Jonah Goldberg, I feel good and strong enough to do this.
And it turns out my meandering story is now the story everybody's
huge. But
talking about.
Hold on, hand signal. Hold on. We're going to get to that in just 1 second. I mentioned my friend Mike Montante and Montante's World podcast, which I suggest if you want to listen to a podcast, it's gentlemen who are these are autodidacts. Mm-hmm. These gentlemen.
And if you and I frustrate people by being too boring, milquetoast, moderate, mainstream, normie, take your pick of word, they might scratch that itch for you.
Right. Exactly. Yes. If you have doubts about what really happened on 9/11, you are at home and not to be judged on Montante's World. But also, I go there because there are times when I can glean the result, the sum total of brilliant critical thinking. And this is like, think of the Manhattan Project.
Just like the commentary podcast?
Think about, yes, exactly. Think of the Manhattan Project.
Okay.
And how, or the commentary podcast, where they work ideas out and they massage them and they come over, and then you come up with something good, and you've got something to take with you. So now I am going to have something to take with me for tomorrow for my show. This is called Critical Thinking at its Best. The boys are going to talk about Catherine Herridge, former Fox News, former CBS, who knows, but she's on Gitmo right now. She's on to something. Oh, hold on.
Every day.
It isn't kidding every day. Hold on. Here we go.
Brown hair. Real
I don't remember her. And Trump's learned. He's learned from the past. Thank God.
It's true. All right. Another thing I want to touch on. So the night before the inauguration, I'm scrolling through Twitter, right? And do you guys remember Catherine Herridge?
Yeah. She's a big Pentagon reporter.
Is there like a Herridge Foundation or something?
Yeah, she was on Fox and she
That's Heritage.
There you go. And that was it. I am now armed for my show.
The Herridge Foundation.
The Herridge Foundation.
Gotcha.
I think they were the authors of Project 2025, as a matter of fact, if I'm not wrong. So there you go. So that's a hat tip to Montante. I also want to.
I like that.
I also want to say. Thank you to Matt Taibbi, who's like, I've heard a lot of people think he's a POS, and I'm sure he was like a crazy gonzo journalist. You know, he is one of these guys who loved Hunter S. Thompson, whatever. But he has written, this is just one paragraph, a beautiful paragraph describing Tim Walz. This is a paragraph that's about, from Matt Taibbi, about the ascension to the ticket of Tim Walz. He said the result was a psychedelic gender puke shake in which redefined tonic super coach dad mainly came across as gayer than Corky St. Clair in Waiting for Guffman, but also tinged with gripping slapstick menace. AIDS dove for cover when he tried to clear his own rifle on a pheasant hunt, a fiasco photo op that produced a Vesuvius of vicious memes, Twitter filled with images of Waltz loading weapons with tampon shells, but no game. One member, this is the best thing about the entire election season. One member of Waltz's hunting party shot a rooster. The Washington Post concluded, sadly, but the carcass was not recovered. Can you imagine how freaking absolutely beautiful is that? That is the best thing in the world. To me, that there's nothing better than that. And really, it's not shocking.
Mind your own damn business.
I mean,
the best part of it is that, and time will tell. It hasn't even been that many months since the election happened. But the best part of it is that the Democrats appear to be determined not to learn anything.
You're totally right about that. And
which is great. They'll do the same thing again in 2028.
Well, yes,
if people in the party let them.
You should see there's all these Bob Duff clips saying Donald Trump is blaming the pilot crashing on black pilots and black air traffic controllers and black flight attendants. How dare this is okay, guys. Go ahead, play this game again. You know, you will get on Joy Reid if you do this. You'll get on Joy Reid. There's no doubt about that. But it is absolutely pathetic. But you're right. They are trying to do. A lot of them are trying to do to go right back to it, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Did you get to see, or do you have anything in mind, or do you want me to go to my hearing cuts? You've been busy all day.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, the big news is you alluded to it briefly there, but we should definitely talk about this plane crash, which is crazy and horribly tragic. We almost never in the United States, that I can tell in my lifetime, see planes go down in tragic, horrible ways with no survivors. That seems to almost never happen in America.
So immediately the left is saying, oh, this is because Trump is firing federal workers. And the right is saying, well, this is because everything's woke. And Trump actually said that in a presser today, which wasn't a great look for Trump.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially after all the people on Twitter went after people on the left for saying that Trump made it happen, which is like typical that both sides immediately retreat to like these positions. That being said, like, I mean, you'd be kind of crazy if it didn't cross your mind. And I have to think, and I could be wrong, but I have to think that Trump is more often than not proven right when he says stuff. Think about the lab leak thing. Think about all the time. Think about the eating the dogs and cats thing. Think about all the things that he's said.
How about Russia hoax?
They've been so outraged, and then it's turned out that he was absolutely spot on about the thing. And you have to think he probably has seen more and been briefed about more of what happened than you and I have, and then all the people on Twitter have. So if he's saying something, I mean, like you say, it's maybe not the best look for the president to run right out and be like DEI. But that being said, if he's saying it, I'm more apt to probably take it a little bit seriously. I don't love the look, but I mean, like, I don't know anything about what happened yet beyond what was on the news this morning. There could even have been new developments, but I mean,
they were understaffed. We know that. There was one person in there, and there should have been at least two. This is a news story from Fox Business from a year and a half ago.
Millions of travelers at risk. Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach joins us now. Sir, thanks for being with us. I want to know, what DEI practices are you identifying that you think are most concerning?
Well, it really began in October of 2022 when the FAA announced its 5-year plan for hiring. And in it, it said that it would change its hiring practices in order to achieve more diversity, specifically racial diversity, in its workforce. And then that continued with multiple symposia on this, putting into place this new hiring practice. And they continue to talk about their new hiring practices. And all of this has happened during the same period last summer when the United States Supreme Court said that any racial discrimination is unconstitutional when it's done by a government entity. In that case, it was, government subsidized universities, but that's certainly the case with the FAA as well.
Given the unconstitutional issues that you just raised, are you hoping to get a response from this letter, or is there anything besides sending this letter that you were hoping to achieve?
We are hoping to get a response, and we're hoping that the FAA in its response will change its hiring practice, go back to what it did before, and that is hire simply based on skill. I mean, I think it's outrageous that the FAA would not only be doing this, but apparently proud that it's making passenger safety take a back seat to diversity. I think all of us would probably agree that whether it's flying the plane or the FAA air traffic controller guiding the plane into the runway, or for that matter, a doctor performing a complicated surgery, we don't care what race the person is.
But this DEI stuff, in other words, makes it by default that the prime suspect is now DEI.
Right. And if they hadn't gone around saying they were diversifying and DEIing all these departments, then it wouldn't be a question in anybody's mind if that was what happened. I tend to always believe, and Splash says it in the chat, sometimes accidents happen, people fail, right? Like, I tend to always believe that human F up is generally the most likely answer to why anything happens. Right. And we've mentioned this before on this show. Just like ancient Rome we take it for granted as members of a highly advanced civilization that things don't happen, like planes fall out of the sky or airplane doors fall off or like any variety of things that are actually like miracles that happen every day, that all these planes take off and land and people don't die.
Yep.
And requires so many things to go right and requires so many super skilled people to all do their jobs really well every day, right? Like, and so many not super skilled people to do jobs really well every day. Like, it takes so much to make that happen every day that once you start tinkering around the edges of that process and replacing people who know what they're doing with people who don't know what they're doing for any reason,
Yep.
there's probably a lot of fail safes that make it so the planes mostly still stay in the sky, but you just don't know, right? Like that you won't affect it.
Well,
we take it for granted that you can like replace a few people here and there and the planes will stay in the sky. And that may or may not be true. Like we just don't know until we start doing it.
Well, right. We won't know. And by the way, did the best air traffic controllers and the best pilots refuse to get vaxxed? Were they let go? Who knows?
Who knows? Right. And so these are all questions in people's mind now because of policies that were pursued by this past administration. And obviously, like, you can't make it about anything Trump did because he's only been there a week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, like, it's silly to even discuss it. It's like people who want to talk about, like, the prices going up under Trump over the past 9 days or whatever it's been. Right. Like, you can't. You can't go by that. The people that are there today are the result of the hiring practices of the Biden administration, right? And you can't say, like, it shouldn't be politicized. Obviously, this is a horrible tragedy, but of course, like any tragedy, you have a responsibility after it happens. And we don't know as much about what happened as I assume Trump does, right?
Right.
But obviously, there's going to be an investigation and we're going to know why it happened. And if I were a betting person, which I'm not, but if I were, then I would be betting on it being what Trump says happened and not what random people on Twitter say happened.
Here's the thing, two things. Trump gets out and they ask him,
DEI and the claims that you've made, are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological
brain power
quality.
They're
right
not
there.
gonna like that.
I mean, that is made for Joy Reid to bring in a whole Eli Mistal and a whole bunch of activists. So although I don't like when Trump does this, not even 24 hours after a crash, that said, this has been a Trump formula forever, is that by doing this, he gets the conversation going and scrutiny going. And they're not going to scrutinize on MSNBC, and they're not going to scrutinize in Mother Jones, but they're going to scrutinize everywhere else, including the podcasts armada. All those people will have all this stuff.
Well, and even so, like, once again, like with the dogs and cats stuff, you do sort of cringe a little bit in the debate when Trump does the dogs and cats thing. But A, he turned out to be right. And B, it had people talking about migrants eating dogs and cats, which is not where Kamala Harris wanted the conversation to be. And I think there's a comparable conversation here where it's like, when we're talking about how do we make our planes be the safest in the country and our plane travel and our air traffic control and our takeoffs and landings, like how do we have the best in the world?
Well, right.
Then, should we have these DEI hiring policies? Right. And that's the conversation that we're having now instead of other conversations that we could be having. Like, should we hire a lot more federal workers, which is what the conversation the left wanted to have today.
Well, yes, that's exactly right. And they wanted to come out and just say, by the way, here's the great Rand Paul cut today.
I think the discussion over vaccines is so oversimplified and dumbed down that we never really get to real truths. And it's why people up here are so separated from real people at home. So we talk about hepatitis B. It's a terrible disease. It could lead to liver failure, as the chairman said. But the reason you have distrust from people at home, why they don't believe anything you say, and they don't believe government at all, is you're telling my kid to take a hepatitis B vaccine when he's 1 day old. You get it through drug use and sexually transmitted. That's how you get hepatitis B. But you're telling me my kid has to take it at 1 day old. That's not science. And so every person with a bit of common sense, even people who don't resist vaccines, I vaccinated all my kids. I believe vaccines are one of the modern miracles beyond all pale. The Speckled Monster is a great book about the introduction of the smallpox vaccine in 1720 into our country. All miracles. But I'm not a one-size-fits-all. It's not all or nothing. I chose to wait on my hepatitis B vaccine, and we did it when they went to school. Does that make me an awful person? Does that make me an anti-vaxxer because I questioned the government dictate of whether I do it? And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm only speaking for myself. But for goodness sakes, let's have an honest debate about these things. The COVID vaccine. If you ask me my opinion, the reporters run up and down the hall and they say, you still anti-vaccine? No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine and on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children.
So, and this actually has to do with the conversations that are being had where Americans are versus the conversations or what Twitter is telling the left where they should be.
And they just want to shriek and say anti-vaxxer anybody who says anything.
Exactly. And so people have questions about the vaccines. People don't know. They want to know about vaccines. Moms, you're a mom who does a whole lot of research, like the Hep B vaccine. For what reason am I going to make my child 5 uncomfortable again in the pediatrician's office? They plug them full of stuff. But at the same time, let's go back to Trump saying the dogs and the cats. The left and the left's Twitter took that and they said, here we go. Unhinged Trump and then Kamala doing this with her hand, resting her hand. Never understanding that her, yes, queen, I'm too cool, or I'm brat, cool, whatever, the hand, resting her hand with the know-it-all look, was not where anybody who's ever going to vote seriously in an election, other than for identity politics, is ever going to be impressed with. But Twitter showed them that was a dunking moment. Meanwhile, Trump showed them that he's way effing wound up about illegal immigration.
Yeah.
Talk about like giving the election to the guy.
Yeah, but they don't understand. And like with the Tim Walz thing, they've become determined not to understand, and that trying to understand why they lost the election and course correct at all would make them white supremacist Nazis.
Right.
So, I mean, that's good for the right. I saw a survey. I don't know if I can find it again. It might have been Gallup. It's one who polls the question all the time about like how people feel about the different political parties, and people's sentiment about the Democratic Party is like the lowest it's ever been in the history of the question, which is incredible. And it's incredible that it's Quinnipiac University poll. 31% of voters have a favorable opinion of the Democratic Party, while 57% have an unfavorable opinion. It's the highest percentage of voters having an unfavorable opinion of the Democratic Party since the Quinnipiac University poll began asking this question. So, I mean, I don't know what their plan is to recover from this electorally, but it's only psychos left. Right? Like 31% of the country likes your party.
Can I ask you something about this? I just asked this because I've been going on Facebook pages of people we used to know who are now sending each other resistant stuff and saying that Trump is shutting down, taking people's passports, et cetera.
Right.
He's on the movies, et cetera. How many people are voting for that simply just daddy issues? For women who gravitate towards progressivism, how many are daddy issues? Daddy was stern, daddy had rules, daddy was mean, daddy was judgmental. When I slacked off and got my art degree and then worked at Dunkin' Donuts for 4 years, dad was an asshole to me. Daddy,
I mean, I think that's a lot of it, and I think you see that in the reaction to Tim Walz. Especially by women. Oh, Tim Walz is what my mean Republican dad could have been if he was nicer to me and wasn't fooled by Fox News.
Yes.
Like, They all took this as some sort of like healing moment for their own personal issues. Do you remember that one tweet thread where the person was like, yeah, Aunt Kamala and Tim are going to come with the baseball bat to the door, the mean bully who is mean to me. Like, it's so just like right out in the open that it's their personal issues and that they're projecting that onto national politics.
The big Atlantic piece,
way.
I think that was like how Tim Walz is making men feel uncomfortable due to his masculinity. Like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but they grabbed. You're right. That's what they want it to be, and so they want. This was the first day of Karine Jean-Pierre's. This is 14 seconds of her on her first day.
I am obviously acutely aware that my presence at this podium represents a few firsts. I am a Black, gay, immigrant woman, the first of all three of those to hold this position.
Can you imagine? Nice, women of Melrose and Cambridge and West Hartford. Oh, she's the first Black king. She's the first one. Wow. Look at that. And her hair is so unorthodox. She doesn't care. She's heterodox. Wow, something important's happening here.
It reminds me of when Bill de Blasio was elected. And I was at like some work function at a previous job years and years ago with a bunch of people who were super progressive, and they were just like so wowed by Bill de Blasio's family, and they were like, oh, they seem like such regular fun people, like you could totally hang out with them, they're not like stodgy like these politicians people usually are. Of course, like, wasn't his daughter in trouble for like Molotov cocktails during Black Lives Matter?
And the son
or
was like wearing a
something,
witch's outfit,
yeah,
like darting
they were like,
around.
oh, so fun. Like, they just see that and think it's great. The same like they see like an obese blue-haired lesbian with a nose ring and they're like, this is awesome. What a fun person. It's just weird signaling to each other that they're...
Oh, totally. And they know that that's not actually good. But if it was somebody super competent and somebody who had rigid rules and a depth of knowledge and was strong-headed, then that person's like their dad.
Yeah.
He was mean to me. Alice, bad news for you, by the way. You're about to lose a father figure, somebody who you've revered for quite a long time. As a matter of fact, you have, when I said they can't even define racism, you actually use this word for word to put me in my place.
You talked about the importance of defining racism, but I unless I missed it, which is possible, I didn't hear your personal definition. Is there one that you would offer us? Like, how do you define racism?
Sure. So racism, I would define it as a collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas.
We gave him $30 million.
Sure. A collection of racist policies
We're too stupid
that
to keep
lead
up with
to
you.
racial inequity that are substantiated.
He's deep. He has long hair. His name's exotic. His name, wow.
By racist ideas. And anti-racism is pretty simple, using the same terms. Anti-racism is a collection of anti-racist policies leading to racial, anybody want to take a guess? Equity that are substantiated by anti-racist ideas.
Talk about all being stupider. But this guy, everybody pretended that he was somebody with a brain at all. He's not. He's a dumb man. He's a soft-spoken guy. I kind of like the way he speaks, but he's a dumb man. What they should do, if BU, Boston University, who paid this guy $30 million, they closed the shop, by the way. He's gone. He's out. He's done. He's gone. I get the feeling that part of the reason that is because some of our friends who don't like Hamas are probably saying, no. Thanks anyway. And so they've booted him off. And he was never, what they should do, if you really want to make an interesting class about him, you should make it about his entire grift. Its origins, its inception, his ascent, his coming up with a new name because he couldn't be like John Werder anymore.
Like Henry Rogers.
Whatever, yeah. And and then do the same grift with the 1619 Project. These are all Ponzi schemes, but done by dumber people. And actually, I should defend, I'm just going to defend the only white woman I'm going to mention. Apparently the Washington Post, the New York Times slammed Robin DiAngelo. They're now like, oh, I can't believe we weren't thinking that was. So there we are. All right, Alice. I bedraggled you. I begrudged you. I belittled you. I behooved you. I dehooved you. And alas, I am coming hat in hand.
Okay.
Your Miziki trans murderers
Zizians?
have taken over the news cycle.
Yes, I told you it was going to be a big thing.
I know you told me. For 27 minutes.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. Well...
Are you giving me...
I'm not. I'm just saying that you're right. Can we get a quick recap again? This is now huge news everywhere. These psychos are... I can't believe that trans people are unstable. Would be... I don't understand why that would be a glaring red flag that somebody's nuts.
So they're a rationalist cult that left the Miri AI organization that was founded by Eliezer Yudkowsky, is I think how you say his name, who was a rationalist who wrote Harry Potter and the rational, whatever the thing is, the principles of rationality or whatever that stupid book is that I thought was dumb years and years ago. But they, you know, this person who now goes by Ziz came up with this whole like hemispheric theory of the brain and all this stuff. And like I said, drove at least one of the cult members to suicide, murdered one of the cult members' parents, the group of them, and one of their landlords in California, as well as now this Border Patrol agent in Vermont. They got caught in a standoff with him because one of them is a German national who's overstayed his visa.
Right.
His, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
He's a dude. But yeah, so...
They called me it.
Yeah, so this whole cult, like, is a bunch of people who've convinced themselves they're trans and come from, like, the AI rationalist community and broke off as a splinter group. And they're psychos, and they're killing people across the country. So make of that what you will. Like I said a couple days ago, I can't believe more people aren't talking about the fact that there's this insane trans rationalist cult that's murdering people. Like,
but
it
this is
seemed
much
crazy to me, like a new Manson thing that nobody was talking about.
The difference with Manson is that at no point was Manson anything but a thug and a loser who had a way with words and who could pick up, 19-year-old middle-class chicks. These people have been validated to enter into extraordinarily make pretend fantasy land existences by the state and by academia and by all the institutions. So yeah, you tell me that I can be zay, zam, 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 I'm 6 genders and I can change tomorrow, etc. Well, eventually that gets boring. But I mean, talk about being set on a glide path for just more insanity. Because if everything is nothing, nothing means. I mean, then what's the next thing? Like, why would you wonder what murder's like? But it's not really murder. We're setting them free. Okay.
Well, yeah, but this is, I mean, like, I think that all cults are fundamentally the same and convince people of crazy things, right? And of course, any cult that can convince you that you're a different sex than you are can convince you that murdering people is fine. So, why not? But yeah, if you look at, and like Andy Go, or Go, I don't know how to say his name, whatever. But he's been like posting pictures of them. You can see them and stuff. But I mean, like, I told you, these are just like crazy people. And like I said to you a couple days ago when I brought this up and nobody listened to me and everyone thought I was crazy, like, this should be a news story. If there's a cult of insane trans people running around murdering people,
yes,
then that should be kind of big news. But nobody was saying anything about it. So I'm glad it's getting more attention now. I'd like to think that I had a part.
And so do I.
Me and my C2I stories.
Hold on. Just go to this. This is the show.
But yeah,
notes.
Jack, Ziz, Lasota, Gwen Danielson, Somni. Who I think is Somni. One of them was named Emma that died. So in November of 2022, 3 associates of Ziz, somnolence, somnilentia, Emma Borhanian, and someone going by the alias Surrey Dow got in a violent conflict with their landlord in Vallejo, is that how you say that? California, According to court records and news reports, Somni stabbed the landlord in the back with a sword, and the landlord shot Somni and Emma. Emma died, and Somni and Surrey were arrested. Ziz and Gwen were seen by police at the scene alive. But now someone has come back and murdered that landlord.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
like,
wow.
so that's why they're wanted for that murder.
Ziz, I have no problem with you, by the way. I'm all in, Ziz.
And have you looked at all their like mugshots?
Yes.
Interesting group of
Sorry.
fellows, ladies.
All right, Allison. Do you have any other business for the committee, or would you like to go to the chat? I think it's a short one.
We can go to the chat, but you're not feeling well, so.
I'm willing to tough it out. That's what men do.
Mm-hmm.
You have had a boyfriend who's been a real man, right? Yeah, the Russian arms dealer. He was a real man, right? Right?
All my boyfriends have been real men.
No, they haven't. Not the pitch after him. No, not me. The Russian arms dealer. I'm glad. Oh well, and Daniel.
What?
Who's the masseuse?
Andy.
Andy. He was definitely a real man. Oh my god. Oh my goodness.
I never.
Yeah.
You just take all
Sometimes
my things that I say and you spin them into something else that they're
your
not
head
based on your
cloud-
own ideas.
I have now, since I've known you for so long, I can now see, like I now have X-ray vision into your head cloud, and I can see the Andy massage happening, which is fine. I have no problem with that.
It's not true.
Tom, I don't care if you say the word etc.
Thank you.
7,453,000
Thank you.
times in a podcast. But please stop saying the term numbies. You are in your 50s. You're a grown adult. It's numbers. Please, please, please stop saying numbies.
No, Steve, I'm a young, cool TikToker, Gen X TikToker. And so I do numbies on my TikToks, even though I've been falling off. And although the last one got some pretty good numbies. Me and my bro Dave Cullinane and my bro Dave
Please,
Portnoy.
Trump, just ban TikTok,
No,
please.
I do numbies. You want to see me do numbies? You don't do numbies in TikTok.
I don't. It's true.
Hi. By the way, have you seen Be a Man Guy?
He does numbies.
People pour out of businesses to meet him. He's their messiah. I can do that.
He does numbies.
He does numbies.
Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
With an actual question. So it's come to light that they're planning on sending as many as 30,000 illegal gangbangers, what have you, to Guantanamo Bay.
Yes.
But I thought the whole purpose of Tom Homan and the ICE raids was to get these people out of the country and stop paying for them. Why on earth would we move them to Guantanamo Bay where they will get 3 hots and a cot, et cetera, et cetera? You know, that's a little troubling. Am I in the minority on this?
Steve, not to worry. They're going to be staged there. They're going to be staged off the mainland where snooping reporters can't see their mistreatment. And they're going to be housed there. There's all sorts of facilities there. Hegseth spent time there in the service. It is a good staging area. Let's have it available. Even the idea that it's happening is going to have the left saying, oh, the Project 2025 camps are here. We knew they were. So I've got no problem with it. I mean, you got to put them somewhere, and I don't want them in Massachusetts anymore for the whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're having trouble getting them into other countries on planes, then that's like the second best option.
By the way, you know, as of like tonight at midnight, we're tariffing Canada 30%, in Mexico 30%. They weren't kidding.
What does that like mean to me day to day?
That means to you all the Canadian imports that you usually buy.
Like what?
Well, hockey sticks. Those are going to cost a lot more. And from Mexico,
avocados.
Yeah, but avocados and is there good tequila in Mexico? It used to be that's the only place it was. So we can't have all those things anymore. And we're still Go ahead.
I'm open to the idea. I don't feel that strongly about it anymore. Maybe in my old age I'm like mellowing out or something.
Buy American kid. You can get it all at Building 19, right?
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. If you want to join us in the live chat every day and not just on Thursdays, you can join at patreon.com/burnbarrel. If you like listening all the time for free, then you can just come to the live stream on Thursdays, and you can go to burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's links to other places to listen, like YouTube and Spotify and places like that. But we appreciate you either way. Have a great weekend.
C'est la vie.